Welcome back to Saving Junk. Today we're fabricating more front end parts.
No, you're not bringing home another piece of junk.
So in our last episode we made this headlight can over here, and then this morning I made this one over here. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to fix the ends on this splash pan or gravel pan or whatever you want to call it. But before we do that, I was looking at the mounting system on how this thing probably went. Now, so you got two holes here. You got one here, one here, one here, one here, one there. And it looks like all those bolted to this inside can to secure it in there, along with the two down here and the three up here and the one up here. So as I looked at it, it's like, do I really need all those bolts in there to hold this thing solid? And my decision is no, I do not. And the other question is there some reason why this headlight can was supposed to be like, I don't know, maybe like airtight or weather tight from the back side of it? And I can't see any reason for that either. I do know that these cars are notorious for building up dirt and crud between this outer layer, this inner layer, and just rusting this thing out. So maybe having some airspace down there and not having that all sealed up will help keep crud out of there, which I don't plan on driving this thing in bad weather anyway. So what I'm going to do is, when I made this can, I got a mounting hole for this bolt. I'm just going to make a little, like a 45-degree tab to come down off of here, to come down here and catch these two bolts. So if I'm bolted here, I'm bolted there, I'm bolted here, I got 3 bolts here, I got 2 bolts down here, that thing ain't going anywhere. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to just whip up them tabs real quick, weld them on there, and once we got those done, I'm going to drill these bottom holes out for these headlight cans. So, because when I make this, I got to line up, I got to cut that bad section out, and I'm going to have to line up the holes that bolt from here to here. Okay, so let's whip those up real quick and see what we got. All right, so I just welded me a little tab on there. Welded me a little tab on there, and I'll be able to drill those out and probably weld some 1/4-inch nuts on the back of them, or some 5/16 nuts. Same up there, and then I can just run me a bolt in there, and that's going to hold that good and solid. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is, well, first thing I need to do is sweep up some of this crap. Clean up my work area a little bit so it doesn't pile up. So I'm going to do that, then we're going to pull this off, and we're going to go ahead and patch the ends on this gravel pan. And I'm going to go ahead and sand this whole thing down. We'll put some 40 grit on the DA, knock this thing down to bare metal, because it's body color, so it's going to get painted. So we'll get that all cleaned up. So once that is done, and I can bolt this to the to those headlight cans I just made, and bolt them to the core support, now I've got something solid to work off of, and all my bolt holes are going to be where they need to be. So then I will actually go and start working on these fenders. I guess we'll start on the driver's side. And first thing I'm going to do is put some 40 grit on the DA and just take that fender down to bare metal and see what we got. I mean, I know we got issues. I like drilled through the filler just to see how deep it went, and it really didn't go that deep in some places. Like, it's just barely there. But if you looked at my other video, there's screws holding this piece to this piece. So I don't know what kind of mess is under there or what we got to deal with, but we need to get all of that off of there and come up with some kind of plan. But first, let's get this done and go from there. All right, so I pulled this off and kind of sanded it down a little bit. And you can see here's where the rusted out area is, and it's the same on the other side. Same rusted out spot. Kind of interesting why it's there, because, well, I think the fender kind of bolts here and the water just drains down there and gets trapped. So it's not gonna be too difficult to make, but it's got a weird angle to it. So it's like you're flat here, and then you come down at a little angle here and here, but then it's flat here. So not sure what the deal with that was. I mean, it shouldn't be too hard to reform that. So, and then you got this little lip here that they just kind of put that on. That's just like, you know, bend that down for reinforcement. Don't really have to have that. I mean, I don't know what gauge this was, but I'm gonna make it out of 18, so it's not going anywhere. So this hole is fine. This one's kind of getting ate up, so I'm gonna cut right there. We're gonna cut around to here and down to there. So I'm going to cut that piece out. Make a little cardboard template and get a piece of scrap metal and make that thing. So shouldn't be too hard. Let me get this cut out and we'll see what we can do with it here. All right, well, I cut this section out. Made a piece with some cardboard. Fit pretty good, and made this with a piece of scrap sheet metal. This is actually left over from Bill's truck. Thanks, Bill. So, yeah, I might have to trim that up a little bit, but it's pretty close. So what we kind of got to figure out is, it's just a little piece, but it's got some weird bends on it. So a couple things here, see if we can do it. So if I look at this thing, it had like a 45 right there, and that kind of looks like it pulled the rest of this down, and then they bent this down a little bit. So let's see if we can kind of do that. If it went all the way across, I'd just put it in the brake and do it, but it doesn't do that. So it looked like there was a bend there. There's a little bend there, and it went about to, let's see, about right to there. Let's try this thing, see if this will do any good. About the right depth. Pull that down a little bit. Yeah. About right. And then here pulled it up a little bit. Up a little there. Up here was kind of straight. So, kind of got that. I'm trying not to look at this here because I'm trying not to look at that lip because I'm not really worried about that. I want this part right. Now really all it's got to be right is these two holes. But I don't know if you can see that, like this hole is flat and this hole comes down. I'll put that on there like that. It's one we're here long. Let's trim it a little bit. Better. So this is flat, this comes down a little bit, but you can see over here, I don't know if you can see that or not, like this edge needs to come down some more. So, let me see if I can do that without bending the rest of it. It's pretty close. It looks like this edge here is flat across there and I'm kind of going downhill here. So I need to pull this down a little bit more. Maybe I can do it with this. A little square head hammer. Just that edge. A little better. Yeah. I do need to get right in there. Need to get that down a little bit. Pull that down. Pull this side up. Too close. And kind of flatten this out in here. Flat edge on there. This kind of is. Grab a different dolly. I thought I had a different one. I guess it's around somewhere where I don't know where it's at. I'm getting awful close here though. I can just flatten out this one little hump here. That. That's better. Still want to get this edge down a little bit. Let's try that. That's looking better. Yeah, it looks much better. Trim a little off this back edge. I think that is going to be pretty good to weld in place. And then if I need to tweak it a little bit more, I can. Paint off of here. Good. Throw the paint off of here. Just pop from a ground clamp. Weld that thing in there. Okay, so I need to weld that all the way around. And I need the 2 holes in it. Let's go ahead and get them back where they went. Slide this piece right back in there. knock those out on the drill press. We'll weld this all the way around. And then we're gonna get some lunch, and then we're gonna do the other side. Okay, so let me get this finished up, and I'll be back with you in just a few, show you what we got. All right, so there's one side welded in and ground down, and here's our old piece. Holes match up good. So, I'm gonna go in and grab some lunch, and I'm gonna strip this whole thing down, get all the paint off of it, and fix that other end the same way. And then I was looking too, and we kind of need to, this is the drill piece. So this top part of the grill, that was a painted piece too. So that's gonna need to come off and get stripped. And then I was just looking at, you know, like all these old nuts in here. I want to get all that. Get all them nasty things out of there. You know, get all that cleaned up and get some good rust treatment inside there where that surface rust is. There's a ding in this chrome. I don't know if that's going to be fixable. It's bashed in pretty heavy, but I may try to work that and polish it out when, you know, much later when we get to that point. Or that may be an eBay piece. So, but anyway, when I'm doing the fenders and all that, the end of this grill piece bolts into that piece I just made up there. So I think we're gonna have to bolt this in place too, just to make sure that everything's lining up when we're putting those fenders back together. So we'll probably strip that piece out too. But okay, be back with you shortly. All right, just got this side finished and got this whole thing stripped down. So I went back through here and I drilled these holes out on the bottom of these so I can bolt that piece back up. So we're gonna get that bolted back up, get some bolts on both sides to make sure everything's steady. And then I'm gonna start stripping this driver's fender down. Try to get all the paint off this thing today and see what is hiding underneath. And I'm kind of scared to look, but we're gonna take a look. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. I got a lot of this fender ground down. Got the top in here, and it is pretty much as I suspected. It looks like what they did was, I don't know if they bought a repair piece for this or cut this front off of another fender, but they took this section and slid it back into this section and screwed it on there. And up here, this thing is just rotted through in a bunch of places, plus it's all beat up. This part may be able to save part of that. So what I'm gonna have to do is take this fender back off and separate these two pieces, and I'm going to fix it in several different pieces so that there's no making one piece to fix this. So I've got this section that's off the back of the parts car, and I think this top piece here I might be able to cut and kind of bend it to maybe fix this section up here. And then you've kind of got this curve under here, which is a lot like, of course this curve is good, there's really nothing wrong there. So we're gonna have to make several pieces to make this right. So it's gonna be kind of a challenge, but that's cool. We'll just do it one little piece at a time and keep test fitting it as we go, and get it as close as we can. The splash pan piece came out really good. As you can see, the bolts lined up right down there where I wanted them to. Same over here, lined up good. So this is good and solid, and it's It's bolted to those end pieces we made, the headlight buckets. So, and this is going to take some grinding too. There's a lot of filler in this thing. Thankfully, they just started floating it right here. So the whole fender's not full of filler. Once you start sanding about here, you go through the primer right down to bare metal. Well, once you get through this paint. But once you got to here, then the filler started and it got thicker and thicker as you went up here, and they just kind of floated that out, floated this out. But we're gonna make it right, and it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how good we can get this. So that's gonna be it's gonna be a challenge for sure. All right, so I took this fender back off and got all the paint stripped off of it. And I gotta say, it's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I mean, somebody did a patch down here, and they kind of did an okay job. You know, you can feel it, the edges. It's kind of sunk in here, but then it's even here. So, but it's okay. I'm happy enough with that to leave it and just put a little filler over that to smooth it out. You know, maybe I can take a hammer and dolly and knock this low edge out here. On the back side, they rebuilt the brace, and they did a pretty nice job of it, really. So everything is good, solid, and straight until you get up to here. And I don't know if these things were made from the factory this way or somebody did this, but this piece is screwed onto here and it's overlapped. So this piece goes about an inch back under here. And if you look at this piece, this is okay here. This tab is okay here. We're pretty good here. And it starts getting bad here. We got some pinholes here. And then up here, there's another patch was put in under here because this whole top was rusted out. But like this brace under here is pretty solid. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is this piece is repairable. But what I'm going to do first is I want to get rid of this overlap because that's just asking to build rust up in there. And then you got to put a bunch of filler on to float that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut through both layers of this right about here, all the way up and over. Separate the two pieces, and then I'll have a nice butt weld that I can weld this piece to this piece and have it flat. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to cut the center out of this because I'm going to have to rebuild that piece. That's all laid up, so I'm not going to worry about getting that back here and there. And then that'll help give me some access to under here to whatever I need to clean out. And, you know, probably put the good old POR 15 on the back. There's some surface rust back there for sure, but it's not bad enough in most places to have come through, so we can save that before it gets bad. And really, I've only got one. There's like one pinhole there, but for the most part, it's pretty good back there. It just happens to have a deep rust pit there, but that's fixable. So, all right. So let me set up my grinder. I got to change our cutting wheel. I got to change the wheel on it, and we're gonna do a little cutting on this thing. All right, so like I said, first thing we're going to get rid of is kind of the middle out of this piece. All right, so you can see somebody put another layer underneath that layer and patch this thing. But now I can see in here, and I can see that this brace there, even though it's got a lot of, you know, a lot of surface rust, it's good and solid. So I can clean that up and I can save that piece. On the other fender, I think that piece is bad. I think we're gonna have to rebuild that piece. But, and the reason I left this edge here is I'm gonna cut through here, and I want everything to hold its shape. So I'm gonna cut through here about that much, half inch or so, all the way down. Then I should have a nice butt weld to put these two back together and tack it together so I can start kind of recreating the pieces I need and fixing the pieces we need fixed. So, let's see under here. Okay. You can see the screws there. I'm just going to cut on the other side of those screws. Feel that metal's still pretty stout. Now I'm going to get these screws off of here. All right, so like I said, we got some surface rust in here, but for the most part, this is pretty solid except for when you get up into here. And those are the pieces we're gonna have to fix and kind of replace. But this section is good, this is good. This curve and this bracket in here is good, which is good because that's a really complex shape. And then this is all feels good and solid. So now this should go right on there. Line it pretty good, and it looks like it will. Yep. So cutting through both layers of that, I should be able to just tack that right back on. And then once I get that going, then I can kind of start rebuilding some of this. But I'm gonna do a little work on this piece first. This flange is kind of bent, so we're gonna straighten that out. Got some old screws to get out of there. I'm gonna try to clean some of this up the best I can. It's gonna be easier to reach before I tack this piece back on. So, all right, let me do some of that, and then we'll put that back on there. All right, I took some little grinding discs, cleaned all this up in here best I could, at least all the parts that I'm gonna save. And like I said, when I'm done rebuilding all these pieces, we'll take some POR 15 and paint in here. Somebody said, why do you call it POR 15 when it's POR 15? It's like, I don't know. That's just what I call it. You know, it's just like WD-40. Do you call WD-40 wood 40? No, you say WD-40. So I say POR 15. So call it what you want to call it. But anyway, let me fire up the welder. We're going to tack this dude on here. See if I can find a welding clamp, try to help hold this thing. A big one around here. See if this will help or not. It's not deep enough. I might be able to get it here. That there, this right there, getting pretty darn close. This line is right on. Let me get one right here. There. Scoot this over just a bit. this piece is actually going to get cut off again because I'm going to be remaking this top piece, but I just want to get it lined up. Oops. Looks pretty good. A little more. Okay, so that's our starting point. Looks pretty straight, I think. So that line's pretty straight. This body line's pretty straight. All right, so there was a flange down here. There was 1, 2, 3 holes. Now you can see this is all going over here. So I got to rebuild that flange, make a piece for down here, probably from here to here. And then I need to make this piece and maybe just like half of this piece. But some of this is kind of ate up too, so we're gonna have to do a little work in there. But we got a good starting point to go with, so I should be able to build it off of there and have it pretty straight. Okay, that's going to be it for this episode. Doing a little shorter one today. I got a word from work today. I may have to go out of town for a couple of weeks, so I'm hoping I can keep these going on the weekend. And not this week, but the next week I've got some days off that I'm going to try to spend about 3 days out here working on this thing. So that is all for this episode. And make sure you hit like, you hit subscribe. Today's Sunday. I hope you went to church today. Make sure you're praying for the people in Ukraine, and the people in Russia and all those over there who are dealing with this catastrophe on that side of the world. And, don't make sure you pray for them and make sure that you are ready and willing to help. We may need to open up our wallets and give some donations to these people who are losing their homes and losing their jobs. So be willing to do that. So anyway, hit like, hit subscribe, pass this on to your friends. God bless you, and we'll catch you on the next one.